Hey, how's it going? I'm Jason with Impact Consulting, and I'm walking you through a ChatGPT 101. I think we're on our third video here, so I'm going to go over projects today. We've already covered setting up your customizing the main ChatGPT, and then we went into custom GPTs where you can give it instructions and some additional details. And now we're going to take a look at projects. And projects is where you can really get focused in on getting ChatGPT to speak your voice, to use your brand guide, to output consistently what you need for your business. So let's get started with that. So over here in your basic ChatGPT window, I'm going to zoom in on this for you here. You've got all of the stuff on the left-hand side. You've got your GPTs like the store, and then this is where you create your custom GPT, and then you have what you've made here on the left. And then if you're on the paid version, you've got to be on the Plus, Pro, or Teams version. You'll see projects over here. So, and then down below this is your history. So if you don't see projects or new project, then you're probably on a free version, and you'll need to go into your little window there and get on the paid version. It's worth it, $20 a month. So in projects, the way you get started is click on a new project. And what is unique about these, we're going to make let's say a marketing test project. So you give it a name. What's unique about projects versus custom GPTs, because they do have similarities to them, is that a custom GPT can be shared. So you can share this, like if we got Pete, our interviewer here, if I go to Pete, well, if he wants to go out there, I don't know why he won't go out there. There he goes. I can share Pete directly with either the GPT store or somebody directly, and then you can work with Pete. You just hit that share button and it goes through and you can send it out. In a project, you can't share projects. Projects are internal, so that's just for you to work with, and so they can't be shared. One of the other features with projects is that you have the ability to choose the model that you're working with. So this little drop down here, you can choose which model GPT you want to work with. And there's lots of different options. You can see that. So within this project, you can change how GPTs behave and the way that they process data, which is super helpful, especially if you're doing some analytics or code or something like that. Like if it's a coding project, you would want to be working with 4.1 and 3 models pretty frequently. So that's one of the nuances. I don't believe that you can do that inside of custom GPTs. Oh, you can now. So you can change models. So they've upgraded. You can pick from models in there in your custom GPT as well. So that's very cool. But in projects, let's go back to here to our test project. Same setup in here. You've got files that you can add. They give it context. So all of these work best on context. The more context you can give it about your business, what you're doing, the more refined and the better the output's going to be. And then you can also give it instructions. So you can tell it how to respond to you, how to talk to you, what its role is, what its background is, references and people that you want it to behave like. That's where you give it the custom information on how it behaves. So similar to custom GPTs, you've got those controls. You also have tools inside of the project. You can do deep research, you can create an image, web search, and then the canvas is that pop out where it's got the sidebar that you can work with to iterate on stuff. What I found though is that the real value in projects is how we think about it. Is think about a project that can be for a client specific, so you can put all of your client details into a project. It can be for a task, so a specific task that you're working on over time, and you need to refine and iterate and give it specialized instructions. Projects work great for that. And then also to build out a workflow for your business that you've got now offices. And this really changed how I think about it, is that I've got one of my projects is specifically for ideation. So coming up with ideas, working through project timelines and refining our processes. So it's specifically for that. I built one that is specifically for YouTube. So to do stuff like this. I've got instructions that I've given it on, it's a YouTube producer, what the mission is, how they're going to help me out, core branding, references, Hormozy, Cody Sanchez, My First Million. So things that I like, different blueprints that we use, and then it goes on. This is a pretty robust set of instructions. It's got all the steps and then the required outputs. So that's specifically for YouTube. And then I gave it different project files about my business that give it even more context, so it knows ideal client, it knows my vision, mission, value statement, it knows my strategic goals, so how to structure content to achieve goals. So you can give it a lot of content to be very specific for what you need. The other thing that is different between the custom GPTs, and it is getting a little bit better, is versus the projects, is the history and the ability to work with previous conversations. So if you work with a custom GPT, this is your history thread of conversations here. ChatGPT as an interface is going to remember some of these conversations and be able to draw across a number of them, but it's going to look at all of them. So it's not going to be exactly focused on what you're working on. It's going to look at, like, I'm working on a project with our booster club for carnival games, and then I have a scope of work that I was working on for a data management project, and then troubleshooting something. So the GPTs on this outside, these custom ones, can look across your previous history, but they're kind of all over the place. They're not focused history. It's not going to remember that I spoke with my custom marketing GPT and only look for the marketing conversations in here. So projects gives you the ability to do that, where when I go into my marketing project specifically, which is all my branding ops, it remembers all of these conversations. It can look through these previous threads and help me refine and get better over time. So this is how the project becomes trained more and more into my voice. So it can look over these. If there's one that doesn't fit, we can delete it. You hit the three dots, you can delete it. You can move it to a different project if it fits someplace else. You can just kick it out of the project, and you can share the conversation. You can't share the project, but you can share the conversation. So if you share it, they're not going to be able to work with it inside the project the same way, but they may be able to work with it inside their own GPT. And then something else you've got over here in your chat history is that if you're working with the general, like the basic chat GPT here, you have the ability to take those conversations and move them into a project. You'll see add to project. So if you're just using like the advanced voice and have a conversation and it's in that general GPT, you can move it into a project to be able to work with it more specifically later on. If you work with a custom GPT and you're talking to a specific one, you cannot. So you can see here, so I was working with, I have a custom GPT for our booster club named Wiley. I cannot add this conversation into a project. So a little bit of a limitation on it. This conversation just lives out here unless I copy and paste it in. But if you're working with a custom GPT, it can't move into a project. But what you can do is you can make this custom GPT the base for your project. You would just take all of your instructions. So for Wiley, I would just take all of these instructions, copy them, and then go back into our new test project, go to the instructions, and paste those in, and essentially save this because that's probably a better place for me to work with them anyways. This is going to be the WTC project, Booster Club. So this is now Wiley inside the project, and Wiley is going to be able to remember everything about our conversation. So this is a way you can take your custom GPTs and put them into a project or the core of who they are, and then that way they're going to focus in more on what you do. So projects are very useful for keeping focus, getting your brand voice, for consistency in your output, and really training your GPT over time, training ChatGPT how to work with you. The way I describe it is the project's a little bit like having an office in your business. Everything that happens in that office, this person's in charge of, that's their world. So that's where you want to keep those conversations and let them work with it. So hopefully that's helpful. helped you understand projects a little bit better. Remember to give it context, lots of context, good instructions on what you want it to do, and you should be all set. All right, so that's projects, and hopefully that was helpful for you. A little bit of nuance between a custom GPT and what a project is. I like working in projects, it helps keep things organized. If you have any questions or you want me to cover anything in more depth, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can leave a comment down below or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Look forward to talking to you. Have a great day.